Well, we made it. Football season is here. Texans training camp 2025 is here. It gets started today, and the training camp preview finishes right now on this video. Plenty of spins in the books, just a handful left before we get to the training camp preview finishing, and then training camp will be here. Follow along on Twitter, on Houston Football, and of course, right here on the YouTube channel and on the SNL YouTube channel as well. You won't miss a thing. Let's get to the wheel spins presented by my friends at Platinum AC and Heating. Dwayne's the best in the business. He can help you from repairs to replacements like I had to do earlier in the summer, or just simple preventative maintenance. Platinum AC and Heating is the best in the business. Give Dwayne a call today. Let's see where the wheel takes us. Only a handful of names on this wheel. So let's go to the hopeful backup running back for the Houston Texans, Nick Chubb. Now, Chubb's coming over to the Texans after a very successful year in Cleveland. 2 years ago, a massive knee injury destroyed the season for Nick Chubb. He played in a game and a half before he was done, and he's had to work back from that. He even got hurt again last year for the Cleveland Browns as he was trying to work back from that knee injury. But yet again, another year further away from that knee injury, perhaps there's enough there for Nick Chubb to supplant the rest of the roster and solidify that running back 2 spot. Look, Chubb was one of the most consistent and reliable running backs in all of football before his injury. If he can recapture 70, 75% of that, he's easily going to be the running back 2 for this Texans team. And you can even spell Joe Mixon with him over the course of a season if he can get to that level. Now, if he's just half the player that he used to be, maybe he still ends up as the backup running back, but then you wouldn't want to see him on the field hardly at all. We'll all find out together over the course of training camp what Nick Chubb has left. And if he's got a lot left, then the Texans may have themselves a little bit better running back room than we thought. And if he doesn't have much of anything left, Chubb may be out of a job, and the Texans may still be only relying on Joe Mixon for their rushing attack. And that would not be good. The wheel spins as we near close to the end of the training camp preview. Jalen Thomas. Now, if you haven't heard this name before, it doesn't surprise me. He was a practice squad offensive lineman for the Houston Texans last year, played at SMU in college, and hasn't played in the NFL since he got to the NFL. He was listed as an offensive tackle, but ultimately in the offseason workouts, he played on the interior at guard. Now, obviously, he's still got tackle in his repertoire, but it feels like he's going to be competing for some of those guard opportunities at left guard and right guard in this current configuration of the highly competitive Houston Texans offensive line situation. They're going to try to figure out the 5 best guys with competition and coaching, and Thomas is a part of that competition. Do I have high hopes for him? No, I really don't, because he hasn't played really at the NFL level at all, but been in the building, understands how NFL linemen operate, take care of themselves. He's just got to go out there and win himself a spot on the team or win himself a spot on the practice squad. He hasn't played much, so the preseason games will be important for him. And obviously, when they finally put the pads on in practice, it's going to be important for Jalen Thomas to show something. It's a highly competitive starting opportunity at the guard spots, and then even the backup opportunities as well. You got to think, they're only keeping a handful of linemen. You got 5 starters. You probably got a backup tackle or 2, and then you probably have a backup interior offensive lineman or 2. So there's really not that many spots and opportunities to make this roster. Could make the practice squad if you impress. It is worth noting that once Cole Popovich was in control of the offensive line room, he moved Thomas inside, so maybe he sees something that Thomas can pay off on for this Texans team. The wheel keeps going as the names get fewer and fewer. Speaking of offensive linemen, how about the big fella, Trent Brown, 6'8", 380 pounds, and a Super Bowl winning left tackle for the New England Patriots back in the day. Trent Brown knows what Cole Popovich and Nick Caley are capable of from his time in New England with the Patriots. Now, they weren't in the roles that they're in now, but those guys are familiar with him. He's familiar with them. He's played a tremendous amount of football. He is a bigger and taller tackle, just like Blake Fisher, Ariante Ursery. So maybe there's some knowledge to be imparted there on the players. Unfortunately for Trent Brown, I don't see a path to him making this roster unless he's got a healing factor similar to the comic book character Wolverine. Trent Brown had a massive knee injury last year playing for the Cincinnati Bengals, a torn patellar tendon. And if you've watched this channel since draft time, you know how much I hate to hear about torn patellar tendons for offensive linemen. Brown is a big offensive lineman. He's a heavy offensive lineman, and he's coming off of a major knee injury last year with much younger players competing against him for that opportunity. Yeah, between the ears and with experience, he probably has all those guys beat. But you got to go out there and be able to block somebody. I just don't know what Trent Brown's going to be able to do for this Texans team. It feels to me like he's here in a mentor / coach / hey, if you get healthy and win the spot, so be it. If not, and we wrote you a nice little check to come in here and show everybody how you need to operate as an offensive lineman for a Cole Popovich coached offensive line, for a Nick Caley coached offensive scheme. But that's where I see Trent Brown. Who will we talk about next? The wheel decides. Wide receiver Xavier Hutchinson. Now, Hutchinson is a player that's got to be looking over his shoulder here. There's competition for Xavier Hutchinson's spot. He's not guaranteed to be on this roster, but he's got a little bit of a lead on the guys trying to take his spot, on guys like Braxton Berrios and John Mechie and Xavier Johnson and Johnny Johnson and Jared Wayne. He's got a little bit of a lead on those guys, but he's got to keep that lead. The thing that I think about with Xavier Hutchinson from this offseason is in the offseason workouts, when they were doing 2-minute drill where you've got to catch the ball, get over the first down marker, and spike the ball, they were trusting Hutchinson to run those routes into the middle of the field and get down. And he was doing his job well. He'd get open over the middle, he'd get down, he'd get the ball to the official to reset it, and he plays special teams. He's built on how much they can trust him a little bit here in the few years that he's been with the Texans, but there's never been anything amazing on the field for Xavier Hutchinson. If he could put together something to give you at least a little bit of confidence that if somebody's going to miss a quarter or a couple plays or maybe a week, that you could put him out there. I'm not super confident that I could put him out there over any of the 5 wide receivers that I feel like for sure are making this team, which is Justin Watson, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, Christian Kirk, and obviously Nico Collins. I'm not confident in putting Xavier Hutchinson on the field in place of any of those guys, but I'm more confident in Xavier Hutchinson versus any of the other wide receivers on the field. So again, starts with a little bit of a lead. He's got to keep that lead and extend that lead if he's going to make this team and be a potential factor on the depth chart for the Houston Texans. Wheel spin. Those names, fewer and fewer as they go. We just talked about Xavier Hutchinson, the wide receiver. Let's talk about Xavier Johnson, the wide receiver. Here's what I would say about Xavier Johnson. Played at Ohio State. He didn't have a lot of big stats at Ohio State. He was on the practice squad last year. And if he learned something last year and he can showcase it in training camp, so be it. If not, he's not going to make the team and he's not going to make the practice squad. That's all there really is. He was not a super productive player for the Buckeyes, and he was on the practice squad last year. So maybe he got his feet wet on how to be an NFLer, and he can showcase something here in the preseason and during training camp and maybe find his way onto the practice squad yet again. Obviously, he played college football with C.J. Stroud. That's a big positive for him. That can't be the reason you make the team, though. Okay, he's got to go out there, beat some people out for that practice squad spot, does Xavier Johnson. Spin the wheel. What do we got? Arthur Millette. Now, this is a brand new player that took Keydrane Callaghan's spot on the roster. Millette most recently played for the Baltimore Ravens. Before that, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and was an undrafted free agent in 2017. He's 32 years old, and he has stayed around the NFL since he was an undrafted free agent in 2017. That's a badass job by him to hang around. Now, what did the Ravens do with him when he was playing? He got injured last year, so they didn't really have him that much. But a couple of years ago, he played in the slot. He blitzed out of the slot, and this is a guy that's going to compete for reps behind Jalen Petrie in that Texans defense. In the nickel spot, in that slot cornerback spot, in that blitzing defensive back spot that the Texans use so often under DeMeco Ryans. That's what Millette is here to do, and that's what he's going to try to carve himself out an opportunity to do for this Texans team. Here's what I know about the Texans. They like guys who've played a lot of football. They like guys who are veterans that they can trust. And blitzing from that nickel cornerback spot and being a demon off the edge there that defense or the offenses have to account for, the Texans will use that spot quite a bit to send some pressure. So if Millette can do that at a high level, also cover a little bit. And of course, special teams is a depth DB. You got to be able to play special teams. If he can do all that, then the undrafted free agent from 2017, who's 32 years old, the NFL career will continue. And if he can't do that, well, some young guy's going to take his spot and he won't be on the team anymore. And we'll all lament the fact that he took Keydre Callaghan's spot. Speaking of undrafted free agents, Jackson Woodard. Now, I like Woodard a lot here. And Woodard's actually, to me, if you remember last year, he's my new Max Tooley. Last year, I loved the undrafted linebacker out of BYU, Max Tooley, and I thought for sure Tooley had a chance to make it in the organization, and he initially was on the practice squad for the Houston Texans before he ended up over in Minnesota a few weeks into the season. I like Jackson Woodard. Played at UNLV the past couple of seasons after starting his career at Arkansas. He's from Arkansas. He went to Arkansas with the Razorbacks, transferred to UNLV. You know what he did at UNLV in those 2 seasons? He turned into a demon on the field. He was a tackling machine. He had 6 sacks in those 2 years, forced some fumbles, passes defended because they put him out there in coverage. And last year, for the first time in nearly 2 decades, the running Rebs from UNLV had the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year. That was Jackson Woodard. You know what he did in his short time here in the offseason workouts of the Houston Texans? He lined up all over the damn place. He lined up at inside linebacker, outside linebacker. Hell, they even had him rushing the passer defensive end a couple of different times. I love the athleticism of Jackson Woodard. I love what he brings to the table with some versatility at the linebacker spot. This is a guy that you could turn into a heat-seeking missile at the linebacker spot on special teams and then let him ease into potentially having a role for you over on defense eventually. Remember, I don't know, Jake Hansen from a couple of years ago? This guy feels like a jacked up version of Jake Hansen. Jake Hansen, he did his duty in the Big Ten at Illinois, did a good job, and probably got the chance because he played for Lovie Smith, but he made the most of it. Jackson Woodard can do the same thing. Man, I'm pumped to watch Jackson Woodard go out there. And here's another fun thing about him. He was an undrafted free agent signed with Seattle. They got rid of him, and then the Texans claimed him off of waivers. That's how much they liked Woodard. They claimed him off of waivers, so pay attention. We'll be talking, I think, about Jackson Woodard here in training camp before things are all said and done. And he's a dark horse for me to make this Texans roster. The names, they are a few. The talking, still plenty to talk about. This is a key piece to the Houston Texans defense. How about Jalen Petrie and what he brings to the table from that slot cornerback, nickel cornerback, line of scrimmage, demon, the Petrie position. Man, he was around the football a ton last year around the line of scrimmage. I can think right off the top of my head a handful of times that Jalen Petrie directly affected the football and led to a turnover. It was Neville Hewitt's interception against Green Bay. He had one where he popped the ball up, and I believe Jimmy Ward caught the interception. And then who remembers Jalen Petrie throwing his body into the Cowboys offensive lineman who scooped up a loose football, dislodging that, allowing Derek Barnett to run it back for a touchdown? Because I remember it. And Jalen Petrie was all over the place around the line of scrimmage. He was blitzing. He was in on run plays. And then he didn't cover very well. Okay, he was one of the worst coverage guys that consistently played for the Houston Texans last year. And I actually felt like offenses didn't attack him as much as they could have and probably should have been attacking him. So that's something to pay attention to. Now, Petrie said he knew that he had to get better at an element of his new job, and the Texans paid him quite a bit of money, so we know he's going to be on the field a lot in that role. So I'm excited to see if there is growth in the coverage element of Jalen Petrie's game. And if there is, that's a really dangerous player for DeMeco Ryans to deploy on defense. And if it's not, Maybe the Texans got to do a little sub package here or there when it's clearly going to be a passing down so teams don't target Jalen Petrie. I got a little bit of faith that Petrie's cleaned up some of that coverage stuff. And man, he's so impactful around the line of scrimmage. Maybe you just live with some of the coverage issues. Only a handful of names remain, but the spins will get us there. British Brooks, the running back, turned fullback / tight end last year back to running back. That's right. British Brooks, who played running back at North Carolina and then was a running back for most of Texans training camp and then turned into a fullback / tight end and then was a special teams player, but then got hurt. And now he's back at running back. Okay. And he's got an uphill climb and an uphill battle to see if he can make the roster as a running back. But special teams prowess helps a guy on the depth chart like British Brooks. And man, he laid the wood a couple times on special teams last year. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind if the special teams usefulness is there and he shows you just enough at the running back spot. I mean, why couldn't it be Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb and Woody Marks and British Brooks? Why couldn't it be those four guys? So you got to be a special teams demon if you're going to be a depth chart running back for this team. You got to be so good at special teams that the coaches find somebody else to do Daria Gumawale's job and you make the team. That's British Brooks' charge here. Look, the name is cool. The guy was really cool to talk to last year. I remember asking him about, hey, was there a moment where, you thought football wasn't really for you? And he's like, yeah, it sucked. My leg had exploded. It wasn't great, but I knew, I turned that into something positive and spin it forward. And I like the story. I like the guy. Special teams can't be the only reason the guy makes the team. So he's going to have to show something at the running back position. And if he does, you will see the return of British Brooks to the roster. And of course, I get to keep making that goofy voice when we talk about British Brooks. He can make the roster. Only 5 names remain on the wheel. Only 5 names remain on the wheel. Hey, we talked about British Brooks playing a little bit of fake fullback. How about a real fullback for the equation? Jakob Johnson from Germany, might I add. Jakob Johnson previously played fullback for a variety of teams, including in New England with the Patriots when Nick Caley was coaching and when Cole Popovich was coaching on the Patriots coaching staff. Some familiarity there. I don't know if the Texans need a fullback. I don't know if they're going to use a fullback. I don't know if Jakob Johnson can bring enough from a special teams, pass catching, run blocking, running the ball standpoint to justify having a fullback. But we'll all find out together here in training camp. Now, most teams don't carry the fullback, opting for a tight end instead. But I could certainly see where if the Texans are moving towards a more power and gap scheme, that they want that big, nasty lead blocker out there for Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, Woody Marks, whoever's carrying the football for them. And Johnson, in the offseason workouts, minicamp and OTAs, he went out there and tried to catch the ball a couple times in patterns and had some pretty impressive catches. If he can catch the ball effectively, block well, run the ball well when he gets the opportunity to run, and then run block well, then you keep the fullback on the roster, find a way to use him, and hopefully you're not telegraphing things when you put him on the field. And if he can't do those things well, okay, well, when you need him, just use somebody else for that spot, keep an extra tight end or keep an extra running back, or hell, maybe D'Amico Ryans rips that fullback spot away because he wants to keep an extra defensive lineman. I don't know what you do with the extra spot if you don't keep the fullback, but Jakob Johnson's got to prove that not only he deserves to be on the roster, but a fullback deserves to be on the roster. Can the German do it? I don't know. We'll all find out in training camp. Can Dwayne at Platinum AC and Heating take care of you when you have an air conditioning need? Absolutely, he can. I had to get a full air conditioner replacement earlier in the summer. It sucked. It was hot around here. It was blowing, but it wasn't blowing cold air. We decided to just go modern and get the full upgrade. If there's a repair to be had, Dwayne can find the parts and do it for you, and his crew is the best in the business. They're the best service around. 5-star rated by the Better Business Bureau. Oh, by the way, best prices as well. And maybe it's just simple preventative maintenance to make sure that your AC is running as efficiently as possible. And when it runs efficiently, it doesn't have to work as hard. It doesn't cost you as much energy. Dwayne's saving you money all over the place when you call him at Platinum AC and Heating. Remember, repairs, replacements, preventative maintenance, or just a question Maybe you just want to talk football with him. He's a Texans fan just like you. Give Dwayne a call today. Put the phone number in your phone because when you need an AC guy, you need the AC guy, and that's Dwayne at Platinum AC and Heating. Spin wheel. Only 4 names remain on the wheel. 4 pretty interesting names as well. Let's get to one of the more interesting ones on the wheel. Azeez Al-Shaair, the extension of DeMeco Ryans on the field, the linebacker that wears the green dot, calls the plays, make sure everybody is in the right spot. Wasn't as impressive last year as I expected him to be. Some of the injuries caught up with him. Obviously, that very bogus suspension got him on the back end of the season. So the counting stats that were fantastic for him in Tennessee when he was on the Titans for that 1 year, they weren't as high as they usually were. But I thought Azeez Al-Shaair played pretty darn well when he was on the field. And getting used to the teammates, the defensive line getting even better than it has been, the secondary being a little bit more reliable. It was pretty reliable last year, but it gets even more reliable with C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the equation. It could make Aziz's job a little bit easier. Less rookies, more experience in this defense. Remember, the offense turned over to a new offense. This is year 3 in the defense. This is year 2 with Azeez and Kamari Lassiter and Kalen Bullock and Petrie in that position. Henry To'o playing the best version of his self. And Mario Edwards up there in second year for Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. Well, it's the third year for Will Anderson, the second year with Azeez and Will Anderson. You kind of see how it all could build on itself, and Azeez could be in a pretty good spot. Look, it wasn't good when he had to go out there and cover guys in the playoffs. Travis Kelce turned back the clock on Azeez. That's not what Azeez is supposed to be doing. So if the Texans can stay healthy, keep him out of that situation, and just let him go out there and be a dog around the line of scrimmage, that's what you use Azeez Al-Shaair for. And, oh, man, I can't wait till he takes it to Jacksonville and Azeez Al-Shaair and Trevor Lawrence meet up early in the season in the swamp down there in Jacksonville in that muggy, half-empty, crappy stadium that they play in. Sunshine going to be shaking in his boots when Azeez hits the field. And if somebody tries to punk Azeez, they might be messing with the wrong crew. Now that C.J. Gardner-Johnson is on the Houston Texans, I wouldn't be trying to take any liberties with any Texans if C.J. Gardner-Johnson was across from me on the sidelines. As my buddy Brooks Cabina, who covered the Eagles, told me, got a little bit of a screw loose, and that's fine. He's got a screw loose for the Houston Texans. Now, 3 names on the wheel. Who's next? Defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins. He's back after a 1-year hiatus, a little visit and vacation to Cincinnati. He's back with the Houston Texans. The Texans desperately wanted Sheldon Rankins back. They went pretty high on the contract. Ultimately, Rankins got more money from the Bengals. It's rare to lose a bidding war to the Cincinnati Bengals, but Rankins got more money. It didn't work out for them. He had an off-the-field health issue that led to him being away from the team for a good portion of the year. Ultimately, they move on after 1 year. Now he's back with Houston Texans. And I got to tell you, if you get 2023 Sheldon Rankins and the good version of 2024 Mario Edwards, it's a pretty formidable defensive tackle duo to plop in there between Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter on the defensive line. Look, Rankins has got to be here and be steady like he was in 2023. Had a little pass rush prowess, took care of business against the run as well. And, hey, if there's wisdom to be imparted, Sheldon Rankins can impart it. Will Anderson has never missed an opportunity to tell us how important Sheldon Rankins was to his development. There's a bunch of young guys on that offensive line at the defensive tackle spot. On the defensive line, and especially at the tackle spot. Tommy Togiai is a young guy. Junior Tafuna is a young guy. Keontae Hamilton's a young guy. Dylan Horton's a young guy that probably didn't get to benefit as much from Sheldon Rankins because he was off dealing with his health issue a couple of years ago. There's young guys. Darrell Taylor's a young guy to be taught and learn and sit under the Sheldon Rankins learning tree. And, oh, by the way, he's a pretty darn good football player. So you put him out there, stuff some runs, get after the quarterback a little bit from that defensive tackle spot. I like the addition and the resurgence. Well, it's not the guaranteed resurgence. I like the addition and the return of Sheldon Rankins. And hopefully he has a resurgence in 2025 after a down year in 2024. A tight end and a kicker remain on the wheel. Who will be the last person on the wheel? It won't be Kaimi Fairbairn. The kicker for the Houston Texans is the unchallenged starter at kicker. It's Kaimi Fairbairn. And look, simply this, Fairbairn has to be better in cold weather. He has to be more consistent, and he has to be more reliable than he was last year. And I get it. He hit some big bombs last year from 50-plus yards, but he missed some field goals in some close games. He missed some field goal in New York. He missed a field goal against Kansas City. He obviously missed the extra point against the Kansas City Chiefs. He missed the field goal against Tennessee at one point. He missed some field goals that he shouldn't miss. He felt kind of automatic sometimes from 50, and then he missed some that he shouldn't miss. He just can't miss those. And my goodness, the last time he was on the field, he ripped the momentum away from the Houston Texans, missing that extra point. That was awful in Kansas City. He ripped the momentum away from the Texans by missing that extra point. That can't happen. He's got to be more consistent. He's got to be better. And the worry is that maybe he's developed a little bit of a hiccup in how he does things. And hopefully he's not. He's a consummate professional. He's talked about it a lot about kicking, how it's basically golf and how it's a mental game. You got to dial in, make sure the swing's the same every time, yada, yada. Well, hopefully he's got the mental fortitude of Scotty Scheffler. He's the best golfer in the universe right now. So hopefully he's got the mental fortitude of Scotty Scheffler and he can take care of his business when he is called upon, because we don't know exactly what to expect out of this offense. Hopefully they're scoring freaking touchdowns and we don't have to worry about them putting Kaimi Fairbairn on the field. But if they have to, hopefully he instills confidence when he gets onto the football field. Hey, who's going to be the last person on the wheel? Who's it going to be? You think it's going to be Brevin Jordan? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Houston Texans tight end who was headed for a breakout year last year. D'Amico Ryans had a tremendous amount of praise for Brevin Jordan ahead of the 2024 season. I was excited to see what he could bring to the table, and then a knee injury robbed him of the 2024 season. The Texans felt comfortable about where he was in recovery and rehab and felt comfortable about how they could use him the following year, regardless of the situation. And so they extended him before the season was over, and he has the opportunity now to make the team. The reason I said make the team, because it's a few thousand or $100,000 if he doesn't make the team. There's no significant financial impact from moving on from Brevin Jordan. He's got some competition. Jakob Johnson is a guy that's going to play some tight end style stuff. It's going to be tough. He's going to have to beat him out. He's got to beat out Luke Lachey. He's got to beat out Irv Smith Jr. as well. So there's some competition for Brevin Jordan's spots. He's not a great blocker. He's a much better receiver. He's got to have bounced back from his knee injury to showcase some of that receiving. We know he's going to put in the work. He's done the work to get better and better each season and to have a little bit more trust from the organization, but he's got to be healthy basically from the word go. He's got to showcase a lot in training camp to beat out a Lachey or an Irv Smith or to justify his spot over, say Jakob Johnson, if they use him as sort of a pseudo tight end a little bit. So there's plenty of work to be done for Brevin Jordan. I'm rooting for him. I just don't see how, coming off of that injury with the change in the style of offense, we don't know how he's going to fit in the new offense. I just don't see how Brevin Jordan's going to be able to, for sure, make this roster. Certainly a path, but it's more challenging than you can imagine for Brevin Jordan to make this team. We have gone over 90 Houston Texans. And if you followed along from the very first spin, which I believe was Keontae Hamilton, the rookie defensive tackle out of Rutgers, to now, then we've missed one player. Why did we do 91 instead of 90? Well, the Texans cut one of the guys and signed a new one. We talked about him at the very beginning of this. But who's the 91st player? Who haven't we talked about? Think about it. I'll give you a second to think about it. It's CJ Stroud. We've saved the best for last. Look, I'm excited to see what CJ Stroud can do in 2025. 2024 wasn't as good as anybody expected. Certainly not as good as CJ Stroud expected. It's rang in the back of my mind all off season long when CJ Stroud admitted that maybe he thought the second year in the NFL was going to be a little bit easier than it turned out to be. And yes, he dealt with a litany of challenges, from the offensive line to the idiot offensive coordinator to defenses just playing him differently and playing better against him. He dealt with all those challenges, but things that he was in control of, he did not execute as well as he could have. His accuracy wasn't as good. His decision-making wasn't as good. And if those things get better, and he gets a little bit more control of this offense like he's asked for and has been granted according to the conversations about the way they're operating this new offense. And if Nick Caley's the real deal, you could see a really impressive season out of C.J. Stroud. The bare minimum for him has got to be somewhere between 2023 and 2024. And I'm not saying he has to replicate exactly 2023. He can't replicate 2024. He's got to be much better than 2024. And if he can be better than 2023, then the Texans' roof goes up and up and up. The ceiling for what this team can be is determined by how good C.J. Stroud can be in this upcoming season of football. If he is excellent on a week-in, week-out basis, it raises the floor of the Texans and it pushes their potential higher and higher. He's got to be really, really good if the Texans are going to push into the upper echelon of the AFC and go where they've never been before, which is the AFC Championship game. They've got a Super Bowl caliber defense. They've got some things that are challenges along the offensive line, but if the quarterback is capable of elevating some of those players, elevating the offensive system, elevating the questionable offensive line, maximizing the opportunities to throw the ball and when to run the football, and making himself a big-time threat for defenses every single week, then the Texans can find themselves amongst the AFC elites and go where they have never gone before. C.J. Stroud is the key to this team going to the next level. They've had an excellent defense last year. You know where it got them? One quarter further than they got the previous year. They need an excellent quarterback. They need a guy that we all believed was a top 10 guy heading into last year. They actually need that top 10 guy in 2025. Can they get him? I'm not betting against him. Now when C.J. Stroud felt really dialed in, is getting what he wants with the offense, I'm a Nick Caley guy. I was talking about him before Bobby Slowick cleaned out his office. I believe in him. I believe in C.J. Stroud. And I believe 2025 is going to be pretty damn fun from number 7 under center. I'm pretty excited for them to get this thing going with training camp just a few hours away. If you're watching this, heck, training camp might have already started. Nick Caserio might be at the podium right now talking about it. But I appreciate everybody for hanging through the entire wheel spin exercise here of training camp. Any of the comments about this one or any of the wheel spins, let me know in the comments section down below. On your way down there, make sure you're subscribed to this channel and to SNL. You won't miss a thing about the Houston Texans if you're subscribed here and on SNL and on the Locker Room with my good buddy Landry Locker. You'll be set. You'll be fully in tune with what's going on with the Houston Texans. Landry and I will be there for every training camp practice. We're going on the road to West Virginia, covering them when they're at the Greenbrier. We're going to bring it all to you right here on YouTube. So I certainly appreciate everybody who's watched over the summer. You watched last season. If you're new here, welcome in. If you've been here a long time, I appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed the video. I can't wait till we talk Texans later today on a training camp recap.